Well, good morning. It's really a great honor for me and certainly a humbling experience to introduce Jim Blanchard to you this morning. One of the challenges of this introduction is trying to capture in just a few minutes a lifetime of leadership, success, and commitment to the highest of values. Now, you've got biography material in your handout. I just want to hit a couple of highlights. A true Georgian, Jim was born in Augusta and earned both his bachelor's and law degrees at the University of Georgia. After 2 years in the Army, he made Columbus his permanent Georgia home. Last year, Jim retired from Synovus Financial Corporation in Columbus. His career began there in 1970 when he followed in his father's footsteps as the top executive at Columbus Bank and Trust. A year later, he became CEO of Synovus and has guided the company through its periods of greatest growth. In 1976, he helped to change the face of Georgia banking by guiding the approval of the state's multi-bank holding company bill. A few years later, Jim was instrumental in establishing Total System Services, which, as you know, processes payments for hundreds of millions of credit card accounts worldwide. The list of boards of which he is a director or member is both broad and deep, reflecting his dedication to his industry, to education, and to his community. Just a few of the 21 current affiliations are the AT&T Corporation, the W.C. Bradley Company, the American Bankers Association, the Columbus State University Foundation, the Georgia Historical Society, and Teen Challenge of Georgia, Florida. His list of honors is equally long and impressive, including 2 honorary doctorates, selection as Georgia Trend Magazine's most respected CEO and Georgian of the Year, and designation by the U.S. Banker magazine as one of America's 25 most influential people in financial services. You can begin to glean from these facts about Jimmy's life a bit of a picture of why we as Georgians are so fortunate to have him as one of our own. But it's only when you talk to others about him or see him in action that a fuller portrait reveals itself. I had the privilege of becoming the president of the Georgia Research Alliance at a time when Jim was chairman of our board of trustees. I remember my first experience with Jim like it was yesterday. It was early in my tenure, and Jim called me one day and said, "Come on, Mike, we're going to see the governor. He needs to check you out." I'm not sure what had me more uneasy, making a good impression on the governor or making a good impression on Jim. We had a good visit with the governor, and afterwards Jim and I sat together to debrief. I was surprised, honestly, by how approachable and warm he was. It turns out Jim's a regular guy, something I would come to learn about many of our CEO leaders. Being with Jim brings out the best in other people. As a Georgia CEO, Jim understands public-private partnerships. Jim's always recognized that the future of his company is closely tied to how well the state performs. Equally, he knows that the future of the state is closely tied to the performance of its businesses. In his recent appointment as a member of the Advisory Committee to the U.S. Secretary of Commerce on measuring innovation in the 21st century economy, one of his first acts was to take Georgia's unique flavor of public-private partnerships to a national audience. Underlying all of Jim's achievements is his ability to bridge his work, his life, and his faith, to always give from the heart, and to inspire all of us to reach higher. I was touched by a couple of remarks that Rich DeMillo made this morning. He brought up 2 of my favorite topics, IBM and leadership. I began my career back in the 70s with the IBM Corporation, something I will never regret. A great company, lots of problems, they're back on the top. IBM was big about leadership training, and I was in a conference one time and they were carting through all of the corporate divisional vice presidents and presidents to talk to this young group of management trainees. I always remember one of the division presidents coming in and giving a talk about leadership, and he had a very simple, elegant definition of leadership. Leadership's the ability to initiate and direct constructive, positive change. Very simple words, very great words. Jim Blanchard is a great leader. Before we bring Jim up on stage, we'd like to share with you some of the many ways in which his friends and colleagues have been impacted by his leadership and inspiration, and we have just a very short video to share with you.
I found a magnificent culture when I came to CD&T in June of 1970. It was a culture of service. It was a culture of giving of yourself. It was a culture where the leadership genuinely believed in and trusted and enjoyed watching the progress and the development of the people under their span of leadership. So I inherited a magnificent company that had great values and great principles on which it operated. I like to think that we enhance those cultures and those principles and those values, and that we made them stronger and made them better, and they run even deeper now through the fabric of the organization. And in that sense, what I found and what I left are very similar. And yet, the day-to-day routine is incredibly different. And I think that's a message into itself, that you have very similar principles and values, that you believe in the same things, but that the way it extrapolates out into the day-to-day workplace can look incredibly different. And so there's a strength there, there's a continuity there, there is a sameness there that gives it an identity and a personality, and it gives it a consistency that from the inside looking in or the outside looking in, you see things that say, yes, that's the culture and the strength of Synovus. You know, every person is the author of their own dreams, and every person creates their own vision. And I have to tell you that when I think about a lifetime of business contribution, my vision and my dream in my own recollection seems pretty limited. It seems pretty unambitious, because my vision and my dream for 36 and a half years was to come to work and to make our company better that day. It was to expand our capabilities to the customers that we reached. It did not include the rest of the world. It did not include hurdles that we easily achieved. I'm sure there are those who have had those types of dreams and visions, but my vision was to employ technology. It was to improve the service and the products to our customers. I never had a financial goal. I never had a list of hurdles that we would jump and accomplish. I never extrapolated success in formulas. It was always, in my view, about the people. It was about the people that worked here. Were we growing? Were we improving? Were we getting better? It was about our customers. It was about, are they happy with what we do for them? Are they glad they do business with us and not brand X up the street? Success to me was the range of stakeholders that have been a part of our past and will continue to be a part of our future. And I always measured success in terms of what it meant to the people.
Please welcome me, join me in welcoming a very good friend and a very good mentor, James H. Blanchard.
Jim, on behalf of the Technology Association of Georgia, I want to present you with the 2007 Lifetime Achievement Award.
Thank you very much for that very nice award and honor, and Mike for those very nice comments. I'm very grateful and flattered to be here, and I really received that award on behalf of 3.5 decades of team members who have really made the success of our company what it is, and I've just been very proud to have been a part of that team along the way. I have some remarks to make about innovation and creativity, and in particular the journey that we took in Synovus with our credit card processing company. I've noted with great interest the theme of the conference, the Summit Innovation 2.0, what you know limits what you can imagine. And in many ways that is the story of TSYS, the largest Visa MasterCard processor in the world. And before I get into that story, I have one more little clip that I'd like for you to watch.
What we all want in life is a shot. But what we do with it, that's the story we all want to tell.
You know, I've coached for 25 years, and I've never experienced that, the emotional high of what happened.
What happened for Jason McKelvey, or J-Mac as his friends call him, is about more than a shot. Diagnosed with autism at 2 years old, now identified as highly functioning, he's never considered himself different or separate, especially when it comes to sports.
Sports is always bad. How could I say, his equalizer. He's like, just like any of the other kids out there.
It's not a really big deal at all. I'm just normal like other people. That's the way I am.
At 5'6", J-Mac didn't make the junior varsity basketball team at his high school, Greece Athena, near Rochester, New York. Instead, he became team manager, a role he now has for the varsity as a senior. In the last 3 years, in his white shirt and black tie, he's missed only one game.
We want to practice, set up the clock, and get the water in games and be enthusiastic.
As this season was wrapping up, Coach Johnson approached Jason with an idea about the Trojans' final home game of the season.
I said, I'm really going to look to try to get you in the game, but remember, I can't promise you that. And he goes, okay, Coach.
February 15th, Greece Athena against Spencerport, senior night. With word out that Jason might play, the student section printed signs of J-Mac's face, just in case. And with 4:19 left in the game, with the Trojans up by 20, Coach called down to the end of the bench for number 52.
I just kind of turned and pointed at him, and he almost ran right on the court. He was so excited.
Jay, you got to check in. So he hits the buzzer, and it doesn't go anywhere. But now you go on the court. You know, he was so caught up in the moment.
He came into the game, also, and they put the signs, the pictures of him up, and I got really emotional. And I sat down and started crying.
With 3:46 left, Jason got the ball.
When he missed that first three, I was like, oh. And then it airballed, and I was like, man, I really just want to see him score one time.
I put my head in my hands, like, dear God, please, let's just get him a basket.
Then, with 3:12 left, another chance.
That third trip down the court. Man.
after shot kept going in.
The basket like this big old juice bucket. And I was shooting like there were free throws. This is a big old juice bucket that's like huge.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. He has more points than me, so he got bad. He was unstoppable for that moment in time. He was unstoppable.
He comes down the court right at the end with like 3 seconds left, and he hits this one that's, you know, probably like an NBA three. As soon as they got over, they storm the court. I couldn't, you know, just couldn't dream anything like that.
It felt like we won a championship. Everyone's just so happy for me.
In that 4 minutes, 19 seconds, Jason was 7 for 13, 6 of 10 from three-point range, 20 points in all. In his first and only varsity basketball game, J-Mac was the high scorer.
Truly the most incredible moment I've ever had in coaching. I was so touched, and it was just so special to me that a young man, his dream came true. You know? And I can help that. It was awesome.
What we all want in life is a shot. J-Mac took his. And now, it's a story we can all tell.
I tear up every time I see that. And it's kind of like I feel over 37 and a half years, almost every day, with the accomplishments of people in our organization. People that are just normal folks. They got this little issue or they got that particular strength, but given a shot, there's no limit to what most people are able to accomplish. That's what you want. You want a shot. That's what I wanted. I wanted a shot. J-Mac had a shot one time in his lifetime, and boy, did he make the most of it. And yet, it was not by accident that he made the most of his shot. Because J-Mac had been at every practice. He'd been at every game except one. He had been preparing for that day. He had gotten himself ready mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually. And in every way, he was preparing himself for that moment when the opportunity came his way. I've thought often of the field goal kicker in the Super Bowl when you come down to the last second and the field goal kicker trots out on the field with a 35-yard field goal to kick. And as he trots out on the field goal kicker is thinking about Little League football and practice every day and the aches and pains that he went through. And then he graduated to high school and found that his leg was strong enough, unlike most on the team, to put that ball through the goal. And how every day at practice and in the games and under pressure situations, the misses, the victories, the college, the recruiting, and the goals that were kicked, and the entire life in preparation for this one moment in this Super Bowl when he runs out, casually kicks a field goal, carry him off the field. It's not an accident when a person gets their shot and they are ready. They're prepared. They've thought it through. They've visualized it. They have game planned it. They've war gamed it. They have thought through every dot and every tittle, and they've prepared, and then they are successful with their shot. And most successes in high-tech or low-tech or new economy, old economy, are not big bang successes. You don't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to innovate today, or I'm going to have a big success today. You wake up every morning committed to the day, committed to the task, committed to the preparation, committed to the challenge at hand, knowing that my shot is going to come. Unfortunately, I would say my experience is most people don't recognize their shot when it comes. And even more people are not prepared when that opportunity does arise. I want to tell you a story, and it really does remind me of what you know limits what you can imagine. The story of TSYS, Total System Services, and I take you back into a real low-tech age, certainly an old economy environment. In 1959, in a small bank in Columbus, Georgia. My father happened to be the president at the time. 1959, they became the second bank in the Southeast at Columbus Bank and Trust Company to actually issue a credit card. You might think that doesn't seem very innovative, but one of the large banking companies in the state that had an operation in Columbus actually ran a full-page ad demeaning the Columbus Bank and Trust Company for issuing a credit card, as if it was below the dignity of a commercial bank to issue such a product to their customers. In 1969, Columbus Bank and Trust Company was the first bank in Georgia and the second bank in the Southeast to take the CB&T card. Most of us at that time had private labels on our cards and actually shift it to a national brand. We chose Bank AmeriCard at the time, now Visa, over MasterCharge at the time, now MasterCard. In 1970 and 1971, Bank AmeriCard actually automated the entire credit card world. Took all the paper out of it, electronified it, we called it at the time, and created new systems for clearing and settlement and authorization. And forgive me if I sound too forward on this, but literally at that time it was just like what we have referred to recently as the new economy. It was the latest and the greatest, and it used the highest tech innovations and equipment and software, and it was a miracle. And truth is, there's never been a payment system equal to the convenience and the usage and the incredible explosion of the credit card system. And Columbus Bank and Trust Company, this little bank in Columbus, was the first bank in the nation to go live with what they call Base 1 and Base 2, the electronification of the entire credit card world. We had, in 1966, actually computerized the bank. We put in an old IBM 360, and I promise you it was the most powerful thing known to man. And on every table in this room, there's something more powerful than that whole computer was at that point in time. In 1974, again, forgive me for plodding through this story, but I think you will get the point that this great innovation, this magnificent explosion of success came over a very long period of time as a series of many acts of innovation, many of them at the time seeming relatively obscure. In 1974, almost as an aside, as a kind of a joke, one of our senior executives actually offered to another banker in St. Petersburg, Florida, who was complaining about their processor, that we would process the cards for him. And our story goes like this, that on Monday morning, in fact, they had had a couple of martinis that night, And our guy was pretty loosened up about his offer. On Monday morning, the banker from Landmark Union Trust in St. Petersburg called and said, "Were you serious about that?" And our man allegedly said, "Yes," with a fear in his voice. At that point in time, we had no remote terminals outside of Columbus, Georgia. We began to process Landmark Union Trust as a third-party provider. 6 months later, we signed up the People's National Bank in Seattle, Washington. This is the atmosphere that prevailed upon our board at the time. I went before them and said, "Well, we've had this second success. We've signed up People's Bank in Seattle," and one of my old directors, well over into his mid-80s, said, "Why would a bank in Seattle sign up with us?" And I said, "Well, we have this great system and we have this very innovative, creative process." And he said, "Baloney, we must be offering it too cheap." There's never been an innovator in this room or elsewhere that hasn't faced the critics, the skeptics, those that said it can't be done, those that poo-pooed the entire idea. And yet innovators prevail. Innovators persist. They will not back off. They don't get their feelings hurt. They don't shrink into the corner, but they continue to persist and push forward. And then lo and behold, in 1976, just a couple of years later, the U.S. Supreme Court passed a case known as the Worthen case, which was a landmark banking case that said that the Bank of America and Master Charge associations could no longer limit a bank to just one card, but they could issue both cards and they could take deposits from merchants from both card associations. And all of a sudden, people in banks all over America began to call us because we had a system that could handle both cards, and very few others at the time did. In 1983, 7 years later, we had worked our way up to 1.5 million credit cards that we were processing on behalf of others, and we were feeling pretty good about that. Why in the world I thought that was something that worthy of going public with, I'll never know. It probably should have been one of the many carcasses along the roadside that just was tried and failed. And yet we, in January of '83, spun this operation out of the bank into a separate company. And then in August of '83, we capitalized it in January with $3 million, buildings, equipment, some people. We sold 20% of it 6 months later to the public for $7.5 million, and we thought we had just hit the grand slam, this home run ever. Today, the market cap of Synovus is $6 billion. And it represents 50% of the total market cap of our entire company. The Synovus plus Synovus market cap is right at $12 billion. So this innovative, this creative, this new, this unknown, this willingness to venture out has produced incredible value to our stakeholders. Our shareholders have benefited incredibly. We now employ over 6,000 people, mostly in Columbus, Georgia. Our communities have benefited from the economic activity, and our customers, we believe, have benefited from what is now thought of as the gold standard for software for credit card processing. Just one or two little footnotes to close the story. In 1993, we announced a total rewrite of our core software. Our competitor at that time, who dominated the market share of the card processing in this nation, chose not to rewrite and chose to continue to enhance the old software. I told the board that we would spend $30 million on the software and it would take 3.5 years. 5.5 years later, and $200 million later, we completed the project, and fortunately, it worked. And I knew you would laugh because you understand that long-term software development projects, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I would say this: if it had not worked, it is very unlikely that I would be here receiving this award. It'd be somebody else for some other project. The software worked. We now process at TSYS 435 million credit card accounts. We're in 80 countries around the world. We're represented in almost every continent on the globe. And again, it is recognized, the new, we call it TS2, has been recognized as the gold standard. And the market share of the credit card processing world is totally reversed, putting us in the dominant position now, and our competitor who occupied that position is now significantly behind. TSYS has also had a very positive impact on our banking operation. There's a sense of urgency. There's this high-tech intensity. There's this, forgive me for saying this, but this Buck Rogers kind of environment where the latest and the greatest stuff, hardware, software, technology, communications, people, we've been able to attract some of the greatest in the world into our team, has spilled over, and we're a bank with a sense of urgency and an eye toward innovation and creativity that has served us there very, very well. And I'm thrilled to be able to relate this very briefly to you. It is a story of, I kind of think of it in terms of 80% maybe inspiration and perspiration, and everyone in this room will be able to relate to that. But it's also a great story of risk-taking and creativity and innovation that turned into something very, very positive for all of the constituencies we serve. Thanks again for this recognition, and I hope you have a wonderful summit.